So, in reference to grid theory, the human brain basically perceives what the sense of the individual is casting its net towards. You know what I mean? The law of attraction. And pause, because dimensionalities are key here. You know what I'm saying? Gravity. How many dimensions to gravity? A cube. How many dimensions to a cube? Time, space, and so on and so forth. There are ways of interacting that things in life exhibit that are separate and yet contained within the same system. And this is a consolidation of information technique, because if you have a drawer with a bunch of files that need to go in it, what do? You put the files on a flat piece of paper. The paper is flat. It's two-dimensional in a purpose of talking here. And so this is exactly what infinity is doing. It's categorizing itself in all possible ways. And right now, there are 4, and some would argue 5, and string theorists would say 10 dimensions. And dimension can be considered an infinite parameter for a system that is fixed, and it changes, but its being there is fixed. Okay, so what's the point of all this? The point is that the higher levels of interaction, you know what I mean? The interactions of interactions are where things happen that can't happen here in an everyday state of mind. And now we're looking towards like DMT experiences, people who meet gods and have their knots in their consciousness untied, and then they think of something in a form of thought that is not accessible to them in an everyday mind state, and it allows them to get over psychological damage and stuff. So there are obvious benefits, but what I'm saying is that the mind states where these people go are actually real and accessible without DMT. And it's a matter of knowing that all that ever happens, anything that fucking happens and everything, is just reality interacting with itself by some law, and we influence it by measuring it. You know what I mean? That's quantum physics. You know what I'm saying? At the very fundamental level, they're going to say the electromagnetic field is fluctuating in a way that gives rise to photons. And those photons are waves until they're observed and they become particles. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly how a quantum physicist would explain what happens when you look at light. We are the fish in the net, but we're also the fisherman holding the net, So whatever you gotta do, man, just know that lead yourself to where you want to go instead of trying to push yourself there. And know that the only thing that exists is a grid. And then we think about hyperbolic geometry and we say, well, if you wrap a grid around a banana, you're going to get a surface that's all warped and rippled and has like weird edges and stuff. Yet that it's a finite surface. And if you were to draw a line around this grid, you know what I'm saying, you would not get a straight line because the surface itself is hyperbolic. And on levels-based thing, it's also the net interacting with itself on the hyperbolic surfaces of the banana in order to get a cast, you know. And what we witness is essentially the cast of the net that we possess by existing as infinite observers.